The Spring Art Festival in Merrysoft Meadow, a Kawaii Crochet Club sleep story. Let yourself settle now. Feel the softness beneath you, supporting every part of your body, your shoulders, your back, your legs, all of you held gently. Take a slow breath in and let it go. There's nothing you need to do right now, nothing you need to solve or finish or remember. This time is yours. This stillness is yours. Breathe in again, slowly, and release. Your body knows how to rest. It's been waiting for this moment all day. Let it soften now. Let your jaw relax. Let your hands open, palms turning upward or resting easy wherever they are. Breathe. And as you breathe, imagine a place, a meadow, not far from here, not far at all. It's called Merrysoft Meadow, and it's waiting for you. The meadow is bathed in the warm, golden light of late spring, the kind of light that feels like honey, thick and soft and sweet. It touches everything gently, the grass, the flowers, the air itself. You're walking into Merrysoft Meadow now. Each step you take feels soft beneath you, softer than any ground you've walked on before. It's like stepping onto yarn, thick, cushioned, giving just a little with each step. Your feet sink slightly and then the ground holds you, kindly. The air is warm here, clean. It smells faintly of flowers, not overwhelming, just a whisper of sweetness. Lavender, maybe, or soft roses, or something even gentler, something you can't quite name but that makes you feel safe. Everything here moves slowly. A light breeze stirs the grass, but it doesn't rush. It drifts. It wanders. It touches your face and moves on, soft as a sigh. You breathe it in, and you walk a little farther into the meadow. Ahead of you, you see four small figures. They're sitting together on a gentle slope beneath a wide tree with pale pink blossoms. The blossoms are soft, the color of dawn, and they drift down now and then, one at a time, landing without sound on the grass. These are the members of the Kawaii Crochet Club. Four crocheted animals. Friends. They've been here all morning, and now they're resting together, talking softly about the day ahead. Let's meet them. The first is Peach the Bunny. Peach is a light pink crocheted bunny, soft and round, with long ears that fold gently to one side. Her body is made of yarn, looped and stitched with care, and she has a sweetness to her that you can feel even from a distance. On her head, Peach wears a small teal beret. It sits slightly tilted, the way berets do, and pinned to the side is a tiny peach, just a little stitched charm, delicate and lovely. The beret was found in Paris many seasons ago, and Peach treasures it. She touches it sometimes, gently, just to make sure it's still there. Peach loves beauty. She loves quiet moments. She loves the way light falls through leaves, the way petals rest on water, the way a single flower can make a whole day feel different. She's sitting now, with her paws folded in her lap, looking out across the meadow with a soft, thoughtful expression. Next to Peach is Biscuit the Bear. Biscuit is a honey gold crocheted bear, warm in color, sturdy in presence. He's a little bigger than the others, rounder, with a gentle weight to him that feels comforting. When Biscuit is near, you feel like everything will be all right. Around his neck, Biscuit wears a red and cream checkered scarf. It's old, well-loved, soft from many seasons of wear. The scarf was a gift from someone kind long ago, and Biscuit never takes it off. It smells faintly of honey and wool while in home. Biscuit is calm, steady. He doesn't speak often, but when he does, his voice is low and kind. He listens more than he talks. He notices when someone needs comfort, and he offers it without fuss, just by being there. Right now, Biscuit is leaning back against the tree, his paws resting on his round belly, his eyes half closed in contentment. Beside Biscuit is Mittens the cat. Mittens is a soft orange crocheted cat, small and sleek, with ears that perk up gently, and a long tail that curls around her when she sits. Her yarn is a warm, peachy orange, the color of afternoon sun on brick walls. Around her neck, Mittens wears a cream knit collar. It's delicate, simple, and attached to it is a small silver bell. The bell doesn't ring loudly, it's not that kind of bell. It chimes softly, a single clear note, only when Mittens moves. And even then, it's more of a whisper than a sound. Mittens is observant. She watches the world with quiet attention, noticing things others might miss. The way a butterfly lands, the way a shadow shifts, the way the wind changes direction just before rain. She's cozy, affectionate in her own quiet way. She doesn't say much, but when she curls up beside you, you know she cares. Right now, Mittens is grooming one paw slowly, her bell chiming once, softly as she shifts her weight. And lastly, there is Sunny the duck. Sunny is a small yellow crocheted duck, bright and cheerful, with a round body and little wings that stick out to the sides. She's the smallest of the four, but she doesn't seem to mind. She likes being small. It makes the world feel bigger, more full of things to discover. On her head, Sunny wears a pink polka dot bow. It's tied neatly between her ears, or where her ears would be if ducks had ears. The bow is soft and floppy, and it bounces a little when Sunny walks. Sunny is gentle, curious. She loves asking questions, not because she needs answers, but because she loves learning how her friends see the world. She's cheerful, but not in a loud way. Her cheer is soft, warm, like morning light. Right now, Sunny is sitting with her wings tucked close, looking up at the blossoms falling from the tree and smiling. These four friends, Peach, Biscuit, Mittens, and Sunny, make up the Kawaii Crochet Club. They've been friends for many seasons now. They meet often in Merrysoft Meadow, where they crochet together, talk together, and simply exist together in the quiet comfort of companionship. And today, they're preparing for something special. Today is the beginning of the Spring Art Festival. The Spring Art Festival happens once a year in Merrysoft Meadow. It's a small festival, gentle and unhurried, where animals from all around come to share the things they've made: paintings, carvings, woven baskets, stitched quilts, and more. There's no competition, no prizes, no rush, just the quiet joy of making something and sharing it with others. The festival lasts for one full day, from morning until the floating lanterns are released at dusk. And every year, the Kawaii Crochet Club participates. This year, they've decided to do something a little different. This year, they're making a tea and cup cozy booth. The idea came to them a few weeks ago. They were sitting together, as they often do, crocheting quietly in the afternoon sun. Peach was working on a small flower, Biscuit on a scarf, Mittens on a tiny blanket, and Sunny on a hat. The conversation had been slow, comfortable, drifting from one topic to another, the way conversations do when no one is in a hurry. And then Peach had said softly, "I've been thinking." The others had looked up. "About the festival," Peach continued. "About what we might do this year." Biscuit nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about that too." "Me too," said Mittens, her bell chiming once as she set down her work. Sunny tilted her head. "What are you thinking, Peach?" Peach smiled. "I'm thinking we've spent so much time making things for ourselves, beautiful things, things that bring us comfort. And I'm grateful for that. But I wonder," she paused, choosing her words carefully, "I wonder if we might make something for others this year, something that brings comfort to everyone who comes to the festival." The others were quiet for a moment, letting the idea settle. Then, Biscuit said, "I like that." Mittens nodded. "Me too." Sunny's eyes brightened. "What kind of comfort?" Peach thought for a moment. Then she said, "Tea and cozies." It was perfect. Tea, they all agreed, was one of the most comforting things in the world. Warm, soothing, gentle. And cup cozies, small crocheted sleeves that slipped over a teacup to keep your paws from getting too hot, were something they could make together. They could set up a booth at the festival, offer tea to anyone who wanted it, and let them choose a cozy to keep, a gift, a small act of kindness. The more they talked about it, the more excited they became, not in a loud, energetic way, but in a soft, glowing way, the kind of excitement that feels like warmth spreading through your chest. They spent the next few days planning. The planning happened slowly, gently, the way everything happens in Merrysoft Meadow. They met each morning beneath the blossom tree and talked. The first morning, they talked about tea. What kind of tea should they offer? Peach was the first to speak. She sat with her paws folded in her lap, her teal beret tilted slightly to one side, and she said, "I think chamomile would be lovely. It's so calming, so gentle." Biscuit nodded slowly, considering. "Chamomile is good," he said. His voice was low, thoughtful. "But I was thinking about honey tea. Something sweet, something that feels like comfort." Mittens, who had been listening quietly, her bell chiming softly as she shifted, said, "What about mint? It's refreshing, clean, it helps you breathe deeply." Sunny, sitting with her wings tucked close, tilted her head. "Those all sound wonderful. But what about something fruity, like berry tea? Something bright and happy?" They all sat quietly for a moment, thinking. The breeze moved through the blossom tree above them, and a single petal drifted down, landing on Peach's shoulder. She brushed it off gently. "What if," Peach said slowly, "we offered all of them?" The others looked at her. "All of them?" Sunny asked. "Yes," Peach said, "a small selection, so everyone can choose what they like best, what feels right to them in that moment." Biscuit smiled. "I like that idea." "Me too," said Mittens. "Me too," said Sunny. So it was decided they would offer chamomile, honey mint, and berry tea. The next morning, they talked about colors. What colors should the cozies be? This was a question that required thought. Colors mattered, they set a mood, created a feeling, spoke to different parts of the heart. Peach spoke first again. She loved thinking about colors. I love pastels, she said. Soft pinks like cherry blossoms, light blues like morning sky, pale yellows like early sunlight. They feel gentle to me, comforting. Mittens nodded. I understand that, she said. I'm drawn to earth tones myself. Creams like fresh wool, browns like tree bark, soft oranges like autumn leaves. They feel grounding, warm. Biscuit, who had been running his paw over his checkered scarf thoughtfully, said, I like warm colors. Reds like maple leaves in fall, golds like honey, rich, deep honeys. They feel like home to me. Sunny, her polka dot bow bouncing slightly as she spoke, said, I like bright colors, sunny yellows, of course, sky blues, flower pinks, colors that make you smile. They sat quietly, each imagining cozies in their preferred colors. Then Peach said, what if we made cozies in all these colors, a whole rainbow of comfort? Then everyone could find one that speaks to them. That would be a lot of cozies, Mittens said, but she was smiling. We have time, Biscuit said, and we have each other. We can do it together. Yes, said Sunny, together. So, it was decided they would make cozies in every color they loved, pastels and earth tones and warm shades and bright, happy hues. The third morning, they talked about patterns. This question took the longest to answer because there were so many possibilities, and each of them had different ideas, different visions. They sat beneath the blossom tree, and one by one, they shared their thoughts. Peach went first. She looked out across the meadow where flowers were blooming, daisies and buttercups and small, delicate wildflowers in white and yellow and soft purple. I'd like to make flower cozies, she said, inspired by the flowers in the meadow. Little stitched petals, tiny centers, blooms that someone can hold in their paws. She paused, imagining it. I think flowers make people feel cared for, like someone took the time to notice beauty and share it. The others nodded, understanding. Biscuit went next. He looked down at his checkered scarf, running his paw along the straight, even lines. I was thinking about stripes, he said. Simple stripes, clean and even. There's something comforting about repetition, about knowing what comes next. Red and cream, gold and brown, blue and white, just stripes. Mittens nodded. I like that, she said. Then she held up her paws, turning them over slowly. I was thinking about texture, not just how the cozies look, but how they feel. Little bobbles, maybe, or ridges, something that invites touch, something that feels interesting to hold. Sunny, who had been quiet, suddenly brightened. Butterflies, she said. I've been thinking about butterflies. There have been so many in the meadow lately, and they make me so happy. I'd love to stitch tiny butterflies onto cozies, with their wings spread, like they're resting, like they've found a safe place to land. They all sat quietly for a long moment, each imagining these different cozies, flowers and stripes and textures and butterflies. Then Peach said, what if we made all of them? Biscuit chuckled softly. You always say that. Peach smiled. Because it's always the right answer. We each bring something different. Why choose when we can share all of it? We could also make leaf cozies, Mittens added, and vine cozies. inspired by the plants in the meadow. And simple, plain comfort cozies, Biscuit said, in soft, plain yarn, for people who want something simple, uncomplicated. Yes, said Sunny, all of it, everything we can imagine. So it was decided they would make flower cozies and striped cozies and textured cozies and butterfly cozies and leaf cozies and vine cozies and plain comfort cozies. They would make as many as they could before the festival, and whatever they didn't finish, they wouldn't worry about. There would be enough. There always was. The fourth morning, they talked about practical things. How many cups would they need? How many teapots? Where would they get the tea itself? These were smaller questions, easier to answer, but they still took their time with them. They made lists. Peach wrote in careful, looping handwriting on a piece of soft paper. Cups, she wrote, at least 2 dozen. Teapots, 3 in different colors. Tea, enough for a full day with extra just in case. They talked about where the booth would be. The festival organizers had mentioned a spot near the willow tree, but they wanted to see it first, to make sure it felt right. They talked about what time they should arrive on the day of the festival. Early, they decided, before the sun had fully risen, so they could set up slowly, carefully, without rushing. They talked about small details. Should they have a sign? Yes, a small one. Sunny offered to make it. Should they have a cloth for the table? Yes, Peach had one saved for something special. This felt special. By the end of the fourth morning, they had a plan. Not rigid, not fixed, but soft and flexible, like everything in Merrysoft Meadow. They knew what they wanted to do. Now they just had to do it. The days leading up to the festival were peaceful. The four friends met each morning and crocheted together. They didn't rush. They took their time, enjoying the rhythm of the work, loop, pull, loop, pull, the yarn sliding through their paws, the soft click of the hooks, the slow, steady growth of each cozy. The first day of crocheting, they set up beneath the blossom tree. They each brought their supplies, baskets full of yarn in every color imaginable, crochet hooks in different sizes, scissors, needles for weaving in ends. Peach spread out a soft blanket on the grass and they arranged themselves in a circle on it. Close enough to talk, far enough to have room to work. The morning was warm. The sun filtered through the blossom-laden branches above them, creating patterns of light and shadow that shifted gently in the breeze. Peach began working on the flower cozies. She chose soft pink yarn first, the color of the inside of a seashell, delicate and warm. She made a slip knot, slid it onto her hook, and began to chain. 1 chain, 2 chains, 3 chains, 4. The rhythm was soothing. Her paws moved steadily, automatically, having made this motion thousands of times before. She worked in rounds, building the base of the cozy. Round and round, the pink yarn growing into a small tube, just the right size to fit over a teacup. When the body of the cozy was complete, she set it aside and began working on the petals. She switched to cream-colored yarn, soft like fresh milk, and crocheted small, delicate petals. Each petal required careful counting. Each stitch had to be just right, or the petal wouldn't curve correctly, wouldn't look natural. She made 5 petals. Then she stitched them carefully onto the pink base, arranging them in a circle, like a flower in full bloom. When she held up the finished cozy, It looked like a small garden had grown in her paws. She smiled. One done. Biscuit worked on the striped cozies. He chose red and cream for his first one, the same colors as his beloved checkered scarf. He liked stripes. He liked the predictability of them, the way they followed a pattern, steady and reliable. 3 rows of red, then 3 rows of cream, then 3 rows of red again. He crocheted slowly, methodically. His paws were large, and the yarn and hook looked tiny in them, but he handled them with surprising gentleness. Loop, pull, loop, pull, the red yarn sliding through his paws, creating neat, even stitches. Then he switched to cream, 3 rows, then back to red. He worked without speaking, focused entirely on the task, his eyes following the movement of his hook, his breathing slow and steady. When the striped cozy was complete, he held it up and examined it. The stripes were perfectly even. The tension was just right, not too tight, not too loose. He nodded, satisfied, and set it aside. Then he began another, this time in gold and brown. Mittens worked on the textured cozies. She loved texture. She loved the way different stitches created different surfaces, different feelings. For her first cozy, she chose cream yarn, undyed wool, natural and soft. She began with a simple base, just like peach, but then she started adding texture. She used a bobble stitch, pushing her hook through, yarning over, pulling up a loop, yarning over again, pulling through, over and over until she had several loops on her hook, then pulling through all of them at once to create a small raised bump. She placed the bobbles in a pattern around the cozy. 1 bobble, then 3 plain stitches, then another bobble, then 3 plain stitches. The result was a cozy that looked soft but felt interesting to touch, smooth in some places, bumpy in others. It invited interaction. It begged to be held. Mittens ran her paw over it slowly, feeling the texture, making sure it was just right. Her bell chimed softly as she moved. She smiled and set the cozy aside. Then she started another, this time using a ridge stitch, creating horizontal lines that ran around the cozy like gentle waves. Sunny worked on the butterfly cozies. She had chosen bright yellow yarn for her first one, the same color as her own feathers, sunny and cheerful. She crocheted the base quickly, her small wings moving with practiced ease. She'd been crocheting since she was very young, and her stitches were neat and tight. When the base was done, she switched to blue yarn, sky blue, bright and clear. She crocheted 2 small butterfly shapes. Each butterfly had a tiny body and 4 wings, 2 larger ones on top, 2 smaller ones on bottom. The wings required the most care. Each wing was made of several stitches, shaped carefully to curve outward, to look like they might flutter at any moment. When both butterflies were done, Sunny stitched them onto opposite sides of the yellow cozy, positioning them carefully so they looked like they were resting, their wings spread in contentment. She held up the finished cozy and giggled softly. It was so cheerful, so bright. She could imagine someone holding a cup wrapped in this cozy and smiling. That thought made her happy. She set it aside and began another, this time with a purple base and yellow butterflies. They worked like this for hours. The morning passed slowly, peacefully. The sun climbed higher in the sky. The shadows shifted. The light changed from golden to bright to soft white. Sometimes they talked. "The yarn is so soft today," Peach said at one point, running the pink strand through her paws. Mmm, Biscuit agreed, not looking up from his work. "Do you think people will like them?" Sunny asked, holding up her butterfly cozy. "They'll love them," Mittens said quietly. "How could they not?" Sometimes they were silent. The only sounds were the soft click of hooks against yarn, the rustle of the breeze through the blossom tree, the distant sound of birds singing in other parts of the meadow. It was a comfortable silence, the kind of silence that exists between people who know each other well, who don't need to fill every moment with words. Around midday, they took a home break. Peach had brought sandwiches, simple ones, made with fresh bread and soft cheese and crisp lettuce from the garden. They ate slowly, savoring each bite, talking about nothing in particular. The weather, the birds, the flowers blooming nearby. After eating, they rested for a bit, lying back on the blanket, looking up through the blossom branches at the sky beyond. Biscuit folded his paws over his belly and closed his eyes. Within minutes, his breathing had deepened. He was napping. Peach smiled at him fondly, then returned to her work, picking up her hook and a new skein of pale blue yarn. The afternoon continued. More cozies took shape. Peach completed 3 more flower cozies, one in pale blue with white petals, one in soft yellow with pink petals, one in lavender with cream petals. Each one was slightly different. The petals weren't exactly the same size. The colors varied just a little. They looked handmade, personal, unique. Biscuit completed 2 more striped cozies, one in gold and brown, one in blue and white. Each stripe was perfectly even, the transitions clean and smooth. Mittens completed 2 more textured cozies, one with baubles, one with ridges. Each one invited touch, promised comfort. Sunny completed 3 more butterfly cozies, one with purple and yellow, one with pink and blue, one with orange and green. Each butterfly looked like it might take flight at any moment. As the sun began to lower toward the horizon, casting longer shadows across the meadow, they decided to stop for the day. They gathered their supplies, folding them carefully back into their baskets. They folded the blanket, shaking off any bits of grass or blossom petals. They counted the completed cozies, 11 total on the first day. "That's good progress," Biscuit said. "It is," Peach agreed. They said their goodbyes and walked home, each carrying their baskets, feeling tired but satisfied. The second day was much like the first. They met beneath the blossom tree in the morning. They spread out the blanket. They arranged themselves in their circle. And they crocheted. Peach started on more flower cozies, this time experimenting with different petal arrangements. Some cozies had 5 petals, some had 6, some had 7. Some petals overlapped slightly, creating depth and dimension. She tried different color combinations: pink base with yellow petals, blue base with purple petals, cream base with pale pink petals. Each one was a small experiment, a small act of creativity. Biscuit continued with stripes, but he also started making some plain cozies. No pattern, just solid colors in warm, comforting shades. Rich reds, deep golds, soft browns. These plain cozies had their own beauty, simple, understated, reliable. Mittens expanded her texture experiments. She tried a new stitch, a star stitch which created a bumpy, almost three-dimensional surface. It was challenging, requiring concentration, but the result was beautiful. A cozy that looked like it was covered in tiny stars. Sunny kept making butterfly cozies, but she also started adding other small creatures. She made one cozy with a tiny bee stitched onto it, one with a small ladybug, one with a dragonfly. Each creature was made with care, with attention to the smallest details: the bee's stripes, the ladybug's spots, the dragonfly's delicate wings. At one point during the second day, a real butterfly landed on the pile of finished cozies. It was white with black spots, delicate and lovely. All four friends stopped working and watched. The butterfly walked slowly across the cozies, its tiny legs barely making a dent in the soft yarn. It paused on a blue cozy with a stitched yellow butterfly, as if recognizing a kindred spirit. Then it opened and closed its wings once, twice, three times, and then it flew away, disappearing into the meadow. "That felt like a blessing," Peach said softly. The others nodded in agreement. The second day ended with 15 more cozies completed. 26 total now. They were making good progress, but they weren't worried about the number. They were more focused on the quality, on making sure each cozy was made with care, with love, with the intention to bring comfort to whoever received it. The third day, they switched locations. Instead of meeting beneath the blossom tree, they met beside the pond, a small, clear pond near the edge of Merrysoft Meadow, surrounded by cattails and lily pads. The change of scenery was refreshing. They spread their blanket near the water's edge, close enough to hear the gentle lap of tiny waves against the shore, far enough to stay dry. Dragonflies darted across the surface of the water. Frogs croaked softly from the reeds. The air smelled clean and green and alive. Peach started working on vine cozies. She chose soft green yarn, the color of new spring leaves, and crocheted a simple base. Then she added tiny stitched vines that curled around the cozy, climbing upward. She added small leaves here and there in slightly darker green, creating the impression of a living plant. It reminded her of the ivy that grew on the side of her cottage, the way it climbed and curled and reached toward the sun. Biscuit started working on some special cozies, ones with small pockets stitched onto the side, just big enough to hold a tea bag or a small cookie. He wasn't sure if anyone would use the pockets, but he liked the idea of adding a small, unexpected detail. A surprise. A bit of extra thoughtfulness. Mittens started working on leaf cozies. She chose autumn colors, oranges and yellows and deep reds, and crocheted cozies that looked like they were covered in fallen leaves. Each leaf was stitched individually and attached to the base, overlapping slightly, creating a rich, layered texture. Sunny, inspired by the pond, started making water-themed cozies. She used shades of blue and green, aqua, teal, sky, blue, sea foam green, and added small stitched waves or ripples, creating the impression of water in motion. They worked through the morning and into the afternoon. At one point, Peach set down her work and simply watched the pond. A turtle was sunning itself on a log. A family of ducks paddled by, leaving gentle V-shaped ripples in their wake. The lily pads floated serenely, their white flowers just beginning to open. "It's so peaceful here," Peach said. "Mmm," Mittens agreed, not looking up from her work. Her bell chimed softly. "We should come here more often," Sunny said. "We should," Biscuit said. And they sat in comfortable silence, working and watching, part of the peace around them. The third day ended with 12 more cozies completed, 38 total. They were more than halfway to their goal, though they hadn't set a specific number. They would make as many as felt right, and that would be enough. The fourth and fifth days continued in much the same way. They alternated locations, sometimes beneath the blossom tree, sometimes beside the pond, once in a sunny meadow filled with wildflowers. They crocheted steadily, peacefully, without pressure or deadline anxiety. More flower cozies in every color imaginable. More striped cozies in warm, comforting patterns. More textured cozies with baubles and ridges and star stitches. More butterfly cozies with creatures of all kinds. More vine and leaf cozies inspired by the meadow around them. Each cozy was unique. Each cozy was made with care. Each cozy carried with it the warmth of their friendship, the peace of these days spent together. By the end of the fifth day, they had completed 57 cozies. They sat together, looking at the pile, a mountain of soft, colorful, comforting fabric. "That's a lot of cozies," Sunny said, eyes wide. "It is," Peach agreed. "Do you think it's enough?" Mittens asked. Biscuit smiled. "It's perfect." And it was. While they worked, they talked. Not constantly, not in a rush to fill the silence, but here and there, whenever a thought arose. One morning, Peach said, "I hope people like them." Biscuit looked up from his work. "They will." "How do you know?" Peach asked, not doubting, just curious. Biscuit thought for a moment. Then he said, "Because you made them with care, and people can feel that." Peach smiled. She touched her teal beret gently, adjusting it just a little. "Thank you, Biscuit." Another morning, Sunny said, "Do you think we'll have enough tea?" Mittens, who had been quietly calculating in her head, nodded. "We'll have enough. We can always make more if we need to." "That's true," Sunny said, relieved. She went back to stitching a tiny butterfly wing, her tongue poking out slightly in concentration. Another morning as they worked, a real butterfly landed on Mittens's paw. It was small, pale blue, its wings opening and closing slowly. Mittens went very still. She didn't want to startle it. The others noticed and stopped working too, watching quietly. The butterfly stayed for a long moment, resting. Its wings caught the light. Then gently, it lifted off and fluttered away, disappearing into the meadow. Mittens smiled. Her bell chimed once, softly. "That was nice," Sunny whispered. "Yes," Mittens agreed. "It was." The week before the festival, they began preparing the booth itself. The festival organizers had assigned them a spot near the center of the meadow, beneath a large willow tree. The willow's branches hung low, creating a soft, shaded space that felt private but welcoming. The four friends visited the spot together one afternoon to see it. They walked slowly across the meadow, enjoying the warmth of the sun on their backs, the softness of the grass beneath their feet. When they reached the willow tree, they stopped and looked around. The space was perfect. The willow's branches created a natural canopy, filtering the sunlight into soft, dappled patterns. The grass here was especially thick and cushioned. There was room for a table, room for visitors to gather, room to move comfortably. "It's perfect," Peach said, looking around with her paws clasped together. Biscuit nodded, his checkered scarf moving slightly in the breeze. "It is." Mittens walked around the space slowly, her bell chiming softly with each step, examining it from different angles. "The shade will keep the tea from getting too hot in the sun," she observed. "And the branches are so pretty," Sunny added, looking up at the graceful, drooping willow limbs. "It feels magical here." They stood together for a long moment, just feeling the space, imagining how it would look with their booth set up, with visitors coming and going, with tea being poured and cozies being chosen. "We'll need a table," Biscuit said eventually. "And a cloth," Mittens added. "And a place to keep the teapots warm," said Sunny. "And maybe something to mark the entrance to." "The space," Peach suggested, "so people know they're welcome." They made a list, slowly, carefully, thinking through everything they would need. A table, a cloth, a heat source for the teapots, cups, the teapots themselves, the tea, the cozies, of course, perhaps a small sign, perhaps some flowers to decorate. The list grew, but it never felt overwhelming. Each item was simple, manageable, something they could prepare together. 2 days before the festival, they brought the table. It was a simple wooden table that belonged to Biscuit, light oak, weathered by time but still sturdy. It was large enough to hold everything they would need, but not so large that it would dominate the space. It took all four of them to carry it. Peach and Biscuit took one end, their paws gripping the legs firmly. Mittens and Sunny took the other end, working together to balance the weight. "Ready?" Biscuit asked. "Ready," the others chorused. "Lift," Biscuit said. They lifted together, and the hot table rose from the ground. It was heavier than it looked, but not unmanageably so. They carried it slowly, carefully, walking in step with each other. When someone needed to rest, they all rested, setting the table down gently and catching their breath. Peach adjusted her teal beret, making sure it hadn't slipped. Biscuit retied his scarf. Mitten's bell chimed as she stretched. Sunny flexed her wings. Then they lifted the table again and continued. The meadow stretched out before them, soft and welcoming. Other animals were visible in the distance, also preparing for the festival. Everyone was moving slowly, peacefully, without hurry. When they finally reached the willow tree, they set the table down very carefully, making sure it landed evenly on the grass. "There," Biscuit said, a bit out of breath. "Now we just need to position it." They stepped back and looked at where the table had landed. It was close to where they wanted it, but not quite right. "A little to the left," Peach suggested, tilting her head. They shifted the table to the left, lifting one end at a time, moving it gradually. "More?" Biscuit asked. "A little more," Mittens said. They shifted it again. "There," Sunny said. "That's perfect." They all stepped back to look. The table sat in the center of the willow's shade, positioned so that anyone approaching from the main path would see it clearly, but so that it didn't block the natural flow of the space. It was level. It was stable. It was ready. "Good work, everyone," Peach said, and she meant it. They stood there for a moment longer, admiring their work, feeling a small sense of accomplishment. The next task was the cloth. Peach had been saving this cloth for something special. She'd found it many seasons ago in a small shop at the edge of Merrysoft Meadow, a shop run by an elderly sheep who wove beautiful fabrics by hand. The cloth was cream-colored, made from soft cotton that had been woven with care. Along all, four edges were tiny embroidered flowers, daisies and forget-me-nots, and small, simple blooms in pale blues and pinks and yellows. Peach had known, the moment she saw it, that she would use it for something meaningful. This felt meaningful. She brought the cloth to the willow tree the next morning, carrying it carefully folded in her arms. The others were already there, waiting. "Oh, Peach," Sunny breathed when she saw the cloth. "It's beautiful." "Thank you," Peach said softly. "I've been saving it." Together, the four friends unfolded the cloth. Each of them took a corner, Peach and Biscuit on one side, Mittens and Sunny on the other. They held the corners up, letting the cloth unfurl between them, and for a moment they just held it there, suspended in the air, admiring the embroidered flowers, the soft cream color, the way the light filtered through the weave. Then, slowly, gently, they lowered it onto the table. It drifted down like a leaf falling in autumn, settling onto the wooden surface with barely a whisper. The cloth draped perfectly. It was exactly the right size, covering the table completely, with just enough overhang at the edges to look elegant without dragging on the ground. Peach walked around the table slowly, smoothing the cloth with her paws, making sure there were no wrinkles, no uneven spots. She ran her paws along the embroidered flowers, feeling the slightly raised stitches, appreciating the care that had gone into making them. "Beautiful," she said softly, more to herself than to the others. But they heard, and they agreed. "It's perfect, Peach," Mittens said, her bell chiming softly in approval. The next day, the day before the festival, they brought everything else. They made multiple trips, each of them carrying different items. Biscuit brought the teapots. There were 3 of them, each one round and sturdy, made of glazed ceramic. One was cream-colored with tiny painted flowers around the rim. One was soft, blue with a simple, elegant design. One was pale green, completely plain, but somehow perfect in its simplicity. Each teapot had a rounded body, a curved spout, a comfortable handle, and a lid that fit snugly. Biscuit set them carefully on the table, arranging them in a line first, then in a triangle, then in a cluster, trying to see what looked best. Peach brought the cups. She had collected them over many seasons, some from the same shop where she'd found the cloth, some gifted from friends, some found at small markets in other parts of the meadow. There were dozens of them, all slightly different but all matching in their softness and simplicity. Some were white, some were cream, some were pale pink or light blue or soft yellow. Some had tiny painted flowers. Some had delicate gold rims. Some were completely plain. Peach arranged them on the table in clusters, grouping them by color at first, then by size, then by style, trying different configurations until one felt right. She settled on an organic arrangement, small clusters of cups in different sizes and colors, spread across the table in a way that felt natural, like flowers growing in a garden. Mittens brought the tea. She had spent the previous day preparing it, measuring out portions carefully and storing them in small glass jars. Each jar had a handwritten label that Mittens had made herself, her careful script describing what was inside: chamomile, gentle and calming honey tea, sweet and comforting mint, fresh and soothing berry, bright and cheerful. She arranged the jars beside the teapots, labels facing forward, organized so anyone could easily read them and choose. She adjusted them several times, making sure they were perfectly aligned, making sure each label was clearly visible. Her bell chimed softly with each small movement. Finally, Sunny brought the cozies. They had been stored carefully in her home, each one folded gently and stacked in a large woven basket. A basket Sunny had found specifically for this purpose. The basket was wide and shallow, perfect for displaying the cozies. Sunny set the basket on the ground beside the table and began arranging the cozies inside it. At first, she tried folding them and stacking them in piles, sorted by type. All the flower cozies together, all the striped cozies together, all the butterfly cozies together. But that felt too rigid, too organized, and it hid most of the patterns. Next, she tried laying them flat in the basket, overlapping slightly, but that took up too much space and made it hard to see individual cozies clearly. Finally, she tried something different. She rolled each cozy gently, loosely, and placed it in the basket standing upright, so the opening faced up and the pattern was visible on the outside. She arranged them in a spiral pattern, starting from the center of the basket and working outward, alternating colors and patterns so there was variety and visual interest. When she was done, she stepped back to look. The basket looked like a garden full of colorful flowers, each cozy, standing like a bloom, its pattern on display. You could see the butterflies, the stripes, the embroidered petals, the textures. You could reach in and choose without having to unfold anything. It was perfect. "Oh, Sunny," Peach said, coming over to look. "That's lovely." Biscuit nodded. "Very clever." Mittens smiled. "People will be able to see all the options." Sunny beamed, her polka dot bow bouncing with happiness. "I'm glad you like it." They spent the rest of the afternoon making final adjustments. Biscuit rearranged the teapots one more time, settling on a centered cluster, all three together, like friends. Peach adjusted the cups, making sure each cluster looked inviting, making sure there was enough space between them for people to reach in comfortably. Mittens double-checked the tea jars, making sure the lids were secure, making sure the labels were straight and legible. Sunny placed the basket of cozies in the perfect spot, not in the center of the table, which was for the teapots, but to the side where people could easily see and reach it. They added a few small touches. Peach brought a small bouquet of wildflowers from the meadow, daisies and buttercups and tiny purple blooms, and placed them in a small vase at the corner of the table. Biscuit brought a small sign that Sunny had made, a simple wooden board with painted letters that read, "Tea and Cozies, a gift from the Kawaii Crochet Club." Mittens adjusted the sign's position several times until it was perfectly centered, perfectly balanced. When everything was done, they stood together, the four of them, and looked at what they'd created: the table with its cream cloth and embroidered flowers, the three teapots clustered together, ready to pour, the cups arranged in gentle clusters, waiting to be filled. the tea jars with their careful labels, the basket full of cozies, a rainbow of comfort and care, the wildflowers adding a touch of natural beauty, the sign welcoming everyone. It was simple, unpretentious, warm. It looked exactly like what it was, an offering of comfort made with love. I think we're ready, Peach said softly, her paw touching her teal beret in a gentle, unconscious gesture. Biscuit nodded, his checkered scarf moving slightly. I think so too. Mittens smiled, her bell chiming once, softly. Tomorrow, then. Tomorrow, Sunny echoed, her voice full of quiet excitement. That evening, the four friends sat together beneath the willow tree, beside their booth, watching the sun set over Merrysoft Meadow. The sky turned soft shades of pink and orange and lavender. The light grew golden, then amber, then dusky blue. The meadow was quiet. They didn't talk much. They just sat together, feeling the warmth of the day fade into the coolness of evening, feeling grateful for the work they'd done, for the festival ahead, for each other. After a while, Biscuit said, I'm glad we're doing this. Me too, said Peach. Me too, said Mittens. Me too, said Sunny, and they sat a little longer, until the stars began to appear, one by one, in the darkening sky. The next morning, the morning of the festival, the four friends arrived at the meadow early. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in soft pastels. The air was cool and fresh, carrying the scent of dew and grass and flowers beginning to wake. Other animals were arriving too, setting up their own booths. A hedgehog with paintings, a rabbit with pottery, a fox with carved wooden figures, a squirrel with woven baskets. Everyone moved slowly, quietly, respecting the early hour, the stillness of the morning. The four friends walked to their booth beneath the willow tree. Everything was just as they'd left it. The table, the cloth, the teapots, the cups, the cozies. Should we start heating the water? Hishanin asked. Biscuit nodded. I'll take care of that. He had brought a small, gentle heat source, a smooth stone that warmed slowly and held its heat for hours. He placed it carefully beneath the teapots and let it begin its work. The water inside the teapots would take a while to heat. That was all right. There was no rush. While Biscuit tended to the teapots, Peach adjusted the cups one more time, making sure each cluster looked inviting. Mittens checked the tea jars, making sure the labels were straight, the lids secure. Sunny fluffed the cozies in the basket, making sure each one was visible, each pattern clear. They worked quietly, each focused on their task, but aware of each other, moving in harmony. Around them, the meadow was waking. More animals arrived. Greetings were exchanged, soft good mornings, gentle waves, smiles. A deer walked past, carrying a bundle of embroidered scarves. She nodded to the Kawaii Crochet Club as she passed. Good morning, Peach said, waving. Good morning, the deer replied, her voice like wind through leaves. A turtle moved slowly toward a booth near the pond, carrying a box of painted stones. He paused beside the Crochet Club's table. Tea and cozies, he said, reading the small sign Sunny had made. What a kind idea. Thank you, said Mittens, her bell chiming softly as she dipped her head. The turtle smiled and continued on his way. By mid-morning, the festival had begun. The sun had risen higher, warming the meadow. The dew had evaporated. The air was soft and clear. Animals began to wander between the booths, looking at the art, admiring the craftsmanship, talking quietly with the makers. There was no rush, no sense of urgency. People moved slowly, pausing often, taking their time. The Kawaii Crochet Club stood behind their table, waiting, ready. The water in the teapots was hot now. Steam rose gently from the spouts, curling upward in soft wisps. Peach straightened her teal beret. Biscuit adjusted his checkered scarf. Mittens's bell chimed once as she shifted her weight. Sunny smoothed her polka dot bow. And then their first visitor arrived. It was a small mouse, gray and soft, with tiny paws and bright, curious eyes. She approached the booth slowly, shyly, looking at the cozies in the basket. "Hello," Peach said gently. The mouse looked up. "Hello?" "Would you like some tea?" Peach asked. The mouse hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, please." "What kind?" asked Mittens, stepping forward. "We have chamomile, honey, mint, and berry." The mouse thought for a moment. "Chamomile, please." Mittens smiled. She took one of the small cups and held it beneath the spout of the pale green teapot. She tilted the teapot slowly, carefully, and the tea poured out. Golden, clear, steaming gently. The cup filled. Mittens set the teapot down and handed the cup to Biscuit. Biscuit held the cup carefully in his large paws. "Would you like a cozy?" he asked the mouse. The mouse's eyes brightened. "Oh, yes, please." "You can choose whichever one you like," Sunny said, gesturing to the basket. The mouse stepped closer. She looked at the cozies, her tiny paws hovering over them, not quite touching, just looking. There were so many to choose from. Flower cozies in soft pinks, butterfly cozies in bright yellows, striped cozies in warm golds, textured cozies in cozy creams. The mouse's paw moved toward a flower cozy, pale pink with tiny white petals stitched along the top. "This one," she said softly. "A beautiful choice," Peach said. Sunny lifted the cozy from the basket and brought it to Biscuit. Biscuit held the cup steady while Sunny slid the cozy over it, gently, carefully, until it fit snugly around the warm ceramic. Then, Biscuit handed the cup to the mouse. She took it in her tiny paws. The cozy protected her from the heat, and the warmth seeped through gently, just enough to be comforting. She held the cup close to her chest and smiled. "Thank you," she said. "This is lovely." "You're very welcome," said Peach. The mouse took a small sip of tea. Her eyes closed for a moment and she sighed softly, contentedly. Then she opened her eyes, smiled once more at the four friends, and wandered away into the festival, holding her warm cup, wearing her flower cozy like a small gift. The four friends watched her go. "That was nice," Sunny said. "Yes," Biscuit agreed. Peach touched her beret gently, smiling. "It was." Mitten's bell chimed softly once, as if in agreement. More visitors came, a rabbit with soft brown fur, a sparrow with bright eyes, a hedgehog with gentle quills, a frog with smooth green skin. Each one approached the booth. Each one was greeted warmly. Each one was offered tea. "What kind would you like?" "Chamomile, honey, mint, berry." The tea was poured slowly, steam rising, cups filling, and then the cozies. Would you like a cozy? Yes, please, you can choose whichever you like. And each visitor would step forward, looking at the basket, considering, taking their time. This one, a butterfly cozy in sunny yellow, a striped cozy in red and cream, a textured cozy with soft ridges, a leaf cozy in pale green. The cozy would be slid onto the cup would be handed over, the visitor would hold it, feeling the warmth and smile. Thank you. You're welcome. The morning passed, slowly, gently. The sun climbed higher in the sky. The air grew warmer. The light turned from golden to bright to soft white. The Kawaii Crochet Club worked in a steady rhythm, a comfortable dance they'd found without needing to discuss it. Peach greeted each visitor. Her voice was soft, welcoming, warm. Mittens poured the tea. Her movements were careful, precise, never spilling a drop. Biscuit held the cup steady while the cozies were added. His paws were large but gentle, his presence calm. Sunny helped each visitor choose a cozy. She loved this part, seeing which one they were drawn to, watching their faces light up when they found the perfect one. Between visitors, the four friends had moments to rest. They would lean against the table, or sit on the grass beside it, or simply stand together in comfortable silence, watching the festival move around them. At one point, Peach said, "I'm going to refill the chamomile. We're running low." "I'll help," said Mittens. They took the pale green teapot and walked together to a small preparation area they'd set up behind the willow tree. There they had extra water heating and jars of loose tea ready. Peach held the teapot while Mittens spooned fresh chamomile into it, dried flowers, delicate and pale. Then Mittens poured hot water over the flowers and they watched as the tea began to steep, the water turning golden. "It smells so good," Peach said, breathing in the gentle floral scent. "It does," Mittens agreed. They waited a few moments, letting the tea steep fully, and then they carried the teapot back to the table together. At another point, Biscuit noticed that they were running low on cups. "I'll wash some," he said. There was a small basin of water nearby, clean and clear. Biscuit took a few of the used cups, left behind by visitors who'd finished their tea, and carried them to the basin. He washed each one slowly, gently, making sure they were perfectly clean. Then he dried them with a soft cloth and brought them back to the table, setting them carefully in the clusters. "Thank you, Biscuit," said Sunny. Biscuit nodded. Of course. The early afternoon brought a gentle lull. The festival had been open for several hours now, and many animals had already visited most of the booths. The energy of the morning had softened into something quieter, more relaxed. The four friends took this opportunity to rest a little more fully. They sat together in the shade of the willow tree, leaning back against its trunk, watching the meadow. A light breeze moved through the branches, above them, making the leaves whisper. The sound was soft, continuous, like a lullaby. "This is nice," Peach said. Mmm, Biscuit agreed, his eyes half closed. Mittens was grooming one paw, her bell chiming softly now and then. Sunny had taken off her polka dot bow and was adjusting it, retying it carefully. They sat like this for a while, not speaking, just being. After a time, a butterfly landed on Peach's beret. She felt it, the tiny weight barely there, and she went still. The others noticed and smiled. The butterfly was yellow with black markings, delicate and bright. It sat on the edge of Peach's teal beret, its wings opening and closing slowly, rhythmically. Peach didn't move. She barely breathed. She just sat, feeling honored by this small, quiet visitation. The butterfly stayed for a long moment. Then gently it lifted off, fluttering away into the meadow. Peach smiled. That was lovely. You're a butterfly magnet today, Sunny said with a soft giggle. Peach laughed quietly. I don't mind. Eventually, visitors began to return to the booths, and the four friends stood, brushing grass from their legs, and returned to their table. The afternoon continued. More tea was poured, more cozies were chosen. A squirrel chose a vine cozy, soft green with tiny stitched leaves curling around it. A bird chose a butterfly cozy, bright blue with purple accents. A raccoon chose a striped cozy, brown and cream, simple and sturdy. Each interaction was the same, gentle, unhurried, warm, but also unique, because each visitor was different, each choice personal. At one point, an elderly tortoise approached the booth. He moved very slowly, even for Merrysoft Meadow, where everything moved slowly. Each step was deliberate, careful. His shell was old, worn smooth by many years. He reached the table and looked up at the four friends with wise, kind eyes. Tea? Peach asked, gently. The tortoise nodded. Please, mint, if you have it. We do, said Mittens. She poured the mint tea carefully, the steam rising with a fresh, clean scent. Biscuit held the cup while Sunny retrieved a cozy from the basket. Which one would you like? Sunny asked, showing him the basket. The tortoise looked for a long moment. His eyes moved slowly over each cozy, considering. Finally, he pointed with one ancient foot to a textured cozy in soft cream. It had gentle ridges running around it, easy to grip, comfortable to hold. This one, he said, his voice slow and deep. Sunny slid the cozy onto the cup, and Biscuit handed it to the tortoise. The tortoise took it in both feet. He held it close, feeling the warmth, and he sighed, a long, satisfied sigh. Thank you, he said. This is very kind. You're welcome, said Peach. The tortoise stayed for a moment longer, just standing there holding his tea, feeling the warmth. Then he nodded to each of them in turn and began his slow journey away from the booth. The four friends watched him go, feeling a deep warmth in their chests. The afternoon wore on. The sun began its slow descent toward the horizon. The light changed, growing softer, more golden. Shadows lengthened across the meadow. The air cooled slightly, becoming even more comfortable. The festival began to shift. Animals who had been walking between booths began to settle into spots, sitting on the grass, talking quietly, enjoying the last hours of the day. The Kawaii Crochet Club had fewer visitors now, but the ones who came seemed to linger longer. They didn't just take their tea and leave. They stayed, talking softly with the four friends, asking about the cozies, sharing their own stories. A young rabbit came, no more than a child, with her mother. The mother rabbit asked for 2 cups of berry tea, and both she and her daughter chose butterfly cozies, one in yellow, one in blue. The young rabbit held her cup carefully, her eyes wide with delight. It's so warm, she said. It is, Hersey, Mother agreed, smiling. They sat down near the booth on the grass, sipping their tea. The young rabbit kept looking at her cozy, touching the stitched butterfly gently with one paw. Did you make these? She asked, looking up at Sunny. Sunny nodded. We all did, together. They're beautiful, the young rabbit said. Thank you, said Sunny, her heart warm. As the afternoon moved into early evening, the four friends took another break. They decided to take a walk through the festival, to see the other booths, to stretch their legs. Biscuit stayed behind to watch the table. Go ahead, he said. I'll be here. So Peach, Mittens, and Sunny walked together through the meadow, visiting the other artists. They saw paintings of meadow flowers, so detailed you could almost smell them. They saw pottery, bowls and vases and cups, each one unique, each one shaped by careful hands. They saw wooden carvings of animals, smooth and beautiful, capturing movement in stillness. They saw woven baskets in every size and shape, sturdy and lovely. They admired everything. They spoke with the artists, complimenting their work, asking questions. Everyone was kind. Everyone was happy to share. They paused at a booth run by a doe, a gentle deer with large, dark eyes. The doe had created embroidered pieces, cloths and handkerchiefs and small wall hangings, each one stitched with flowers and vines and birds. These are exquisite, Peach said, looking closely at a handkerchief embroidered with tiny roses. Thank you, the doe said softly. It's my favorite thing to do, to sit and stitch and watch the flowers grow. I understand that feeling, Peach said. I feel the same way about crocheting. The doe smiled. Then you know. They talked for a few more minutes, sharing their love of making things, of the quiet joy it brings. Then Peach, Mittens, and Sunny continued their walk. They returned to their booth as the sun was beginning to set. The sky was turning colors now, soft pinks and oranges and purples, layered like petals. Biscuit was sitting beside the table, his paws folded in his lap, watching the sky. How was your walk? He asked as they approached. Lovely, said Peach. So much beautiful work, said Mittens. Everyone is so talented, said Sunny. Biscuit nodded. They are. As the light continued to fade, the festival began to prepare for its final event, the floating lanterns. This was a tradition in Merrysoft Meadow, a way to close the spring art festival with beauty and light. The lanterns were not fire lanterns. They were magical, glowing softly from within, powered by something gentle and safe, perhaps the warmth of the day, or the joy of the festival, or simply the kindness that filled the meadow. Each artist was given a lantern, small, round, made of soft paper in pastel colors, pink, blue, yellow, lavender, cream. The four friends received a lantern together. It was cream-colored, soft and glowing, gently in Peach's paws. As the sun set fully, the sky turning from orange to deep blue, everyone in the meadow gathered together. They stood in the center of the meadow, holding their lanterns, waiting. The air was cool now. The first stars were beginning to appear overhead. There was a deep silence, not an empty silence, but a full one, a silence filled with presence and anticipation and peace. And then, together, everyone released their lanterns. The lanterns rose slowly into the air, drifting upward on some invisible current. some gentle magic. They rose one by one, then in clusters, then all together, filling the sky with soft points of light, pink and blue and yellow and lavender and cream. They rose higher and higher, spreading out across the sky like stars being born. The four friends stood together, watching. Peach's paw found Biscuit's. Biscuit's paw found Mittens. Mittens' paw found Sunny's. They stood in a line, connected, watching the lanterns rise. Light from the lanterns reflected in their eyes. The meadow was silent, everyone watching, everyone present. The lanterns rose until they were tiny points of light, indistinguishable from the stars. And then slowly they began to fade, their light dimming gently, softly until they were gone. But the memory of them remained, the warmth, the beauty, the sense of something shared. After the lanterns had faded, the festival began to close. Animals gathered their things slowly, packing up their booths, folding their cloths, saying goodbyes. The Kawaii Crochet Club did the same. They packed up the teapots first. The water inside had cooled, and they poured it out onto the grass, giving it back to the meadow. They packed up the cups, wrapping each one carefully in soft cloth. They packed up the tea jars, making sure the lids were tight. And they packed up the remaining cozies, though there weren't many left. Most had been chosen, taken home, gifts of warmth and care. They folded the embroidered cloth carefully, Peach running her paws over it one last time, smoothing it gently. They lifted the table together and carried it back across the meadow, moving slowly, pausing to rest. When everything was packed away, they stood together beneath the willow tree one last time, looking at the spot where their booth had been. The grass was slightly flattened where the table had stood. The air still held the faint scent of tea, chamomile and mint and honey and berry. "We did it," Sunny said softly. "We did," said Peach. Biscuit nodded. "It was a good day. A very good day," Mittens agreed, her bell chiming once, gently. They began to walk home together, across Merrysoft Meadow, beneath the stars. The meadow was quiet now. Most of the animals had gone home. The booths were empty. The festival was over. But the meadow itself remained, soft, gentle, welcoming. Their footsteps made no sound on the yarn-like grass. The air was cool and clean. The night was full of stars. They walked slowly, in no hurry to arrive anywhere. They just walked, together, feeling the peace of the day settle into their bones. After a while, Peach said, "I'm grateful for today." "Me too," said Biscuit. "Me too," said Mittens. "Me too," said Sunny. They walked a little farther. Then Peach said, "I'm grateful for all of you." The others were quiet for a moment. Then Biscuit said, "And we're grateful for you." Peach smiled. She touched her teal beret gently, making sure it was still there. It was. They reached the edge of the meadow where the path split into four directions, one toward Peach's home, one toward Biscuit's, one toward Mittens, one toward Sunny's. They stopped here as they always did to say goodbye. "Good night, Peach," said Biscuit. "Good night, Biscuit," said Peach. "Good night, Mittens," said Sunny. "Good night, Sunny," said Mittens, her bell chiming softly. They stood together for one more moment, just looking at each other, feeling the warmth of their friendship, the comfort of knowing they would see each other again soon. Then, slowly, They each began to walk toward their own homes. Peach walked toward her small cottage, nestled beneath a rose bush. Biscuit walked toward his den, warm and honey-scented. Mittens walked toward her small house, cozy and soft. Sunny walked toward her nest, tucked beside a quiet pond. They walked slowly, each of them carrying the memories of the day, the tea, the cozies, the visitors, the lanterns, the warmth. And as they walked, the meadow held them gently, the grass soft beneath their feet, the air cool and clean, the stars bright above. Everything was peaceful, everything was well, and you, dear listener, you are held gently too. You are safe here, in this meadow, in this story, in this moment. Let yourself rest now. Let your body soften. Let your mind quiet. Let your breath slow. You don't need to do anything. You don't need to go anywhere. You can stay here in Merrysoft Meadow for as long as you like. The meadow will hold you. The story will hold you. You are safe. Breathe in slowly and breathe out. Feel the softness beneath you, the yarn-like grass of the meadow, or the bed where you're lying now. It doesn't matter which. They're the same. Both soft, both safe. Breathe in and breathe out. The four friends are home now. Peach is in her cottage, removing her teal beret gently and setting it on a small table beside her bed. Biscuit is in his den, unwinding his checkered scarf and draping it over a chair. Mittens is in her house, settling onto a soft cushion, her bell chiming once as she circles and lies down. Sunny is in her nest, tucking herself in, her polka dot bow resting beside her. They are all settling into sleep, just as you are. Breathe in and breathe out. The meadow is quiet now. The festival is over. The lanterns have faded. The stars are bright. Everything is still. Everything is peaceful. And you are part of this peace. You are part of this stillness. You are part of this softness. Let yourself drift now. Let your thoughts slow. Let your body relax completely. You don't need to hold on to anything. You can let go. You can rest. The meadow will still be here when you wake. The four friends will still be here. The warmth, the comfort, the safety, it will all still be here. But for now, you can sleep. Breathe in slowly and breathe out even more slowly. Feel the weight of your body sinking into softness. Feel the quiet of the night around you. Feel the peace settling over you like a soft blanket. You are safe. You are held. You are loved. And now, as the last stars of the story begin to fade, as the meadow grows quieter still, as the four friends drift into dreams, you can drift too, into softness, into stillness, into sleep. Good night.